Hey, welcome back. So at this point we have discussed the ifstream and ofstream classes. ifstream to read from files and then ofstream objects to write to files. Alright, we can associate a file, some file on the disk with the particular object, either on construction or using the open function. And then with the ifstream class we can read from that file, and with the ofstream class we can write to the file. Now in this lecture I want to introduce the fstream class, which does not have the I or the O prefix, and so we can read from or write to the files that we associate with the fstream class objects. And that is what we will look at briefly here in this lecture. Before we continue, let's look at the default mode arguments. I have mentioned that for the ifstream class, the default mode argument is standard iOS in for input again, and then for the ofstream we have the out. However, for fstream we have standard iOS in and standard iOS out, so both input and output for the file that is associated with a particular object. So hopefully from the previous lecture you noticed that the in mode with ifstream and the out mode with ofstream are assumed, so those are default basically, even if we do not pass those in explicitly. So if we pass in app for append, for example, then out is still going to be assumed with the ofstream class. That is, even if we do not specify iOS out and iOS append, out is still going to be assumed, so it's not going to be replaced, it's going to be combined. Whereas with fstream the default value is only applied if we do not specify any value for the mode parameter. So the default mode is overridden, alright, and not combined. For this first example in the main file I include the iostream, fstream, C standard library and the string files. Then in the main function I go and instantiate ifstream. I call that instream and tasks.txt, so I want to open this file here, tasks.txt. Now this is going to be the default again, so input for the ifstream as I mentioned, but I'm just specifying that here explicitly. And in that file, tasks.txt, we have these tasks. We want to feed the dogs and we want to feed the chickens. I check if that is open. Then I instantiate ofstream, call that outstream as before, and then I will name this Bob's to-do list. Same thing, this is the default, but we can specify that explicitly like that. If you specify append here, for example, then out is going to be combined with that. It's not going to replace that, it's going to be combined like that. Then we check if that is opened. And then I simply go and use a string. I use getLine, I pass in the input stream. We store the line in the line string, and then we use the stream insertion operator to insert that line into the output stream. Then I simply print this out, file output completed, and then I close those files again. So we should get all of these tasks in Bob's to-do list, right? Build and run, we get file output completed. Then if we open the folder in the File Explorer, in Bob's to-do list we will have feed the ducks and feed the chickens, right? So what we can do is, instead of using ifstream, we can also use fstream. Then I'm still using instream for input stream. And then we can also use fstream for our output stream. But in this case, let's actually do append here as well. So I will build and run again. File output completed. And notice that we have that output and we have appended as well. The point of this is fstream can perform both input and output. So you might have thought, well, can we do both input and output to the same file using fstream? Because an fstream can do input and output. And as I mentioned, that is the default. So we do standard in and out here in this example. And I'm naming the stream file stream. It is going to associate with tasks.txt. And I also specify append here, so we can append to the file. Next we do a check if that is open. Otherwise we terminate the program. Then we can do a console output. I'm just going to print out tasks, and then I want to print out all of the tasks in that file, which again is feed the dogs and feed the chickens. Now it's actually going to append this. I did run this previously, so I'll just remove that line here. Alright, so we will print these out to the console, all of those tasks in this example. Then next we are using this clear member function. We can use this clear member function, and that is going to set the good bit by default, so it has a good bit default argument, and the good bit will basically indicate that none of the other bits is set. So in other words, the fail bit or bad bit are not set. So when will some of the other bits be set? Well, in an example, if you have some file open, an input file, so you opened the file for input operations, but you then try and perform an output operation on that, so you use the stream insertion operator on that instead of the stream extraction operator, then the fail bit will be set on that. Then you can use the clear member function to remove that fail bit flag and to then allow further operations. So I'm using the clear member function here just to make sure that the good bit is set on that and that we can continue performing operations on that stream. Following the clear member function, I will put out, so I will insert this line here into the file stream. And then finally, I will close that file. Alright, so this is currently the state of this particular file. Remember, we are working now only with this task.txt file. We do not have a separate input and output file. So I will build and run. We get those tasks printed. But remember, we also do output here to that file. We insert this into that file. And as we can see, that now appears in this file as well. Alright, but I would recommend that you avoid this workflow and stick to using separate objects and associations for different files, so input and output operations. Stick to the ifstream class for input operations and ofstream for output, and then you associate each one of those with a particular file, right? So that is going to wrap up this quick introduction here to the fstream class. Again, the main difference with this is we can do input and output with this particular class. Actually, there's one trick that I'd like to show you. If you remember the auto type, we can use that to specify the mode, because currently this is hard-coded, right? So instead of hard-coding that, we can make a variable. Alright, I will name the variable mode. The type is going to be auto, so it's going to be automatically deduced. And then we specify in, so standard iOS in, standard iOS out, and then standard iOS app for append. Then where we instantiate the fstream, so we have file stream, we pass in the file to associate with, tasks.txt, then we can pass in mode for that second argument. If we build and run now, we once again will append this line right here, and we will print all of that out. So we will do input and output, and we do append on that particular file, that single file that we associated with, tasks.txt. Again, I don't recommend this workflow. Stick to input file streams and output file streams instead of using this fstream class. So again, just a useful trick for you, because what you can do with this is you can do a check. So if you want to append, you have, so let's say, a boolean variable, and if that boolean variable is true, then you want to append. Otherwise, you set it to something else, so you set it to truncate in that case. So you can set this mode to iOS in, iOS out, and truncate instead of this right here if that boolean variable is false in that case, or whatever you want to do, and maybe based on user input in that case as well. So this is quite handy, and with this is not hard-coded. The input is not that hard-coded. Of course, we still have a hard-coded file name, which you have already seen how we can allow the user to specify the file name. Alright, so with that we are going to wrap up this lecture. I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you next time.